Now that we've added the warp thread that goes vertical, straight up and down on the weaving loom, we're going to weave with the horizontal thread, and this is called the weft. So you'll need your darning needle and whatever color you'd like to start with first. An easy way that I like to use to thread the needle is to twist the end and then just carefully fold the very end just a little bit, and then wiggle it through the eye of the needle until you can grab it with your other fingers, like this. After you thread it through, you can leave it just like that, or you can tie it in a knot. It's up to you. The process of weaving is pretty simple. You go over one, under the next, over one, under the next, but there's a few tricky things that you need to remember. So let's get started. I'll go over the first thread and under the next and just keep alternating until I get to the end. This is called a plain weave. It's very simple, just over one and under one. But it's the way you start the next row that makes it stay together. So leave a little tail, find your weaving comb, and bat it down to the bottom of the loom. For your next row, since we ended going underneath, we have to start by going over top that same very first thread. So you always start the opposite way so that the thread can loop around and hook onto that yarn. You'll see as I pull. If you don't do that and you go under just like you ended, each row will just keep coming out and you'll feel really frustrated. Use your comb, bat it down again, and keep building your weaving with the next row. I ended this row going underneath, so I'll start again going over top of that last thread and under, and so on. You can continue weaving until you're tired of this color or until you run out of thread. Each time you pull, you want to make sure that the warp threads that are up and down are straight. You never want them to be squished into each other like it's cinched in the middle. You want them to be straight up and down. So only pull until it touches the very last yarn and then start to comb it. You're ready to start a second color, rethread your needle, and figure out where you left off. I ended on the left side and my yarn was going underneath the warp thread. So when I begin, I'll go over that last warp thread and then under, like this. Weaving was created with random colors that were left from creating your weaving kits, but you might want to take some time and create a pattern for your design. You could even use yarn that you have at home too. Let's try a new type of weaving. This is called a basket weave. We're going to go over two, under two, over two, under two, over two, under two. What we did before by going over and under just one is called a plain weave. You might start to notice that it looks like a basket after you do 3 or maybe even 4 rows. So I'm going to keep going so that you can kind of see how it looks slightly different than the plain weave that we did before. Notice that everything else about this weaving is the same. If I end going underneath the warp threads, then I start by going over top of them and continue the opposite direction. If you need to, you can tie your yarn to your needle like this, thread it, pull it through, and then just tie it in a simple knot. When you're done, you could leave it on the frame loom and use the stand and display it like that, or you can turn it to the side that has the loops on the back and carefully take off one at a time. At this point, you can either carefully maneuver all of the thread up towards those loops and make them really snug, or you could put some sort of dowel rod or stick through the loops to hang it from something. That's completely up to you. I'm just going to carefully move my weaving up towards the top so it's a little more snug, and then I can start to clean up the edges and all the little pieces that I left hanging. Images with some weavings that have dowel rods or sticks woven through the loops at the top. You've taken your scissors and cleaned up the edges. You're going to cut each of the loops in half. And what you'll do is you'll tie two at a time into a knot, kind of like the first step of tying your shoes. Cross them like an X, wrap one around the other and pull, and do that 2 times so each one is secure. Continue tying them 2 at a time until you get to the end. You should have 3 left over. So just hold 2 together like it's one thread, and again, just like you're tying your shoes, cross them like an X, wrap one around the other, and pull and do that 2 times. Then one last time, you'll take your scissors and make sure that the fringes are even, but don't cut them too short or your knots could come unraveled. Leave about an inch of fringe. Now you have a bookmark or a wall hanging or a gift that you could mail to a friend, and you can use your loom to rewarp it and make more. Have fun. I can't wait to see what you created.